Hi, Gerry Brinkman from BereanNation.com. I was reading today in my devotions Mark chapter 13. Mark chapter 13 is kind of like Matthew 24 and 25 and Luke chapter 21. It's the Olivet Discourse, and it's really about the time when Jesus says he will return to the earth to gather his the term here in Mark is the elect, those who were chosen from before the foundation of the world to be with him forever in heaven. Now, there's a lot of things that could be said about how you become the elect. Was it God's sovereign choice? Yes. Is any work that we do involved? No. There's a lot of things that could be said about that. But about this gathering of the elect, starting in verse 3 of the chapter. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but starting in verse 3, Jesus begins to teach his disciples what they wanted to know. And it says in verse 4, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign when all these things are going to be fulfilled?" And then in verse 5, he began to say to them the truth. And it's really interesting because what sort of comes into this is the timing of what human beings here have called the rapture. Amillennialists will say the word rapture does not ever occur in the New Testament, and they are right. It does not. Because the New Testament was written in Greek, and the Greek equivalent to the word is harpazo, and it occurs 5 times. Most notably in our coming study on 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, one of those occurrences is there, and it's actually going to describe what's going to happen during that harpazo event. So the word harpazo in Greek is translated as raptio in Latin, and that's where we get our English word rapture. So actually, guys that say that the word rapture is never mentioned in the New Testament, yes, it is, 5 times. And before you say that's my interpretation, yeah, it's also not just my interpretation. I'm standing on the solid bedrock of scriptural theology here. Okay? But here in verse 24, it says, "But in those days, after a bunch of things happen, false Christs arise, a lot of persecution, a lot of tribulation, etc." It says, verse 24, "But in those days, after that tribulation," what tribulation is that? Well, it's the beginning, the birth pangs. Not really before the 7 years begin of the final 7-year chapter of history on earth. But somehow it seems to indicate, it says, these are merely birth pangs, and this is what's going to happen during those birth pangs. Verse 24, "But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers that are in the heavens," see Ephesians chapter 6, "will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. And then he will send forth the angels and will gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from the farthest end of the earth to the farthest end of heaven." This is not indicating a pre-tribulation rapture, but rather a pre-wrath or mid-tribulation rapture, and it seems to be very obvious in the meaning. Now, does this mean that's it, Jared? It's a mid-tribulation rapture? No, because there are certain things in the scripture that may indicate that it's going to be before that event. And this is one of the reasons I waffle back and forth between pre-trib and mid-trib. And the very fact that a guy with 33 years experience as a Christian waffles between those two should tell you that when the rapture will occur, what is its theological, scriptural placement is not important. the thing that is important, and it's right here at the end of the chapter, is that you be ready for it. Starting in verse 33 of Mark 13, it says, "Take heed, keep on the alert, for you do not know when the appointed time will come." Now, verse 32, just immediately before that, says, "But of that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. Take heed, keep on the alert, for you do not know when the appointed time will come. It is like a man away on a journey, who upon leaving his house and putting his slaves in charge, assigning to each one his task, also commanded the doorkeeper to stay on the alert. Therefore be on the alert, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, whether in the evening, at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, in case he should come suddenly and find you asleep. What I say to you, I say to all, be on the alert." And my theology is not a dispensational theology that says the rapture will occur, and then the 7 years, and then we're in glory and the millennial kingdom and all of that. My theology says stuff will happen. Be ready for it. I'm Gerry Brinkman. This is BereanNation.com. Study the scriptures daily to see if these things are so.